I need to go deeper now, because understanding the power of dua did not just calm my heart, it shattered illusions I didn't even know I was living under. Illusions that told me I had to always be unbreakable, always in control, always certain, because the truth is that the strongest moments in my life did not come when I felt invincible. They came when I admitted silently that I was not. When I stood alone with my thoughts and realized that leadership without inner grounding becomes a burden that slowly destroys the soul. And it was in those moments that dua stopped being words and became a lifeline, because dua is not about asking for comfort, it is about asking for strength to stand upright when comfort is absent. And when I truly surrendered in dua, something inside me shifted in a way no victory ever had, because victories fade, applause fades, power fades, but the calm that enters your heart through sincere dua stays. It settles. It anchors you when everything else is shaking. And I was shocked by how dua teaches you patience without making you weak. Because patience is not waiting with fear, it is waiting with trust. And that trust transforms how you see time, hardship, and uncertainty, because you stop demanding instant answers and start trusting the process that shapes you. And this is where dua becomes dangerous to fear, because fear thrives on uncertainty. But dua teaches you how to breathe inside uncertainty without collapsing. And I began to notice that the more sincerely I turned inward through dua, the less noise from outside could control me. Criticism lost its sting, pressure lost its suffocation, and even loneliness lost its darkness. Because dua reminds you that silence is not emptiness, it is presence. And that presence strengthens you in ways no external validation ever can. And I realized that dua does not always change the situation immediately, but it always changes how you carry it. And that alone can decide whether pressure breaks you or builds you. Because when your heart is grounded, storms may rage, but they cannot uproot you. And this understanding went straight into my bones, because I saw how many people lose themselves chasing control, dominance, recognition, while forgetting that inner stability is the real currency of strength. And dua restores that stability quietly, without drama, without spectacle, without conditions. And the more I reflect on this, the more I understand that dua is not an escape from responsibility. It is what prepares you to carry responsibility without losing your humanity. Because it strips arrogance and replaces it with clarity, it removes panic and replaces it with resolve, and it transforms anger into disciplined action. And that is why dua creates leaders who do not rule through fear, but through steadiness, through example, through moral weight. And when I say I was shocked by the power of dua, I mean I was shocked by how it reshaped my inner world before anything in the outer world shifted. Because real change always begins there. And once the heart is aligned, actions begin to carry a different energy. Words carry a different sincerity. And decisions carry a different depth. And this is the kind of power that does not shout but endures. That does not intimidate but influences. That does not collapse under pressure but grows stronger inside it. And this realization is not mine alone. It belongs to anyone who has ever felt overwhelmed, unheard, exhausted, or lost. Because dua does not require status, position, or perfection. It only requires truthfulness, and that is why it penetrates the heart so deeply. Because truth always does. And as I continue forward carrying this understanding, I no longer measure strength by how loud my voice is, or how firm my stance appears. I measure it by how calm my heart remains when the world tests me. Because a heart fortified by dua cannot be shaken easily. And that is a power no enemy, no pressure, and no circumstance can ever take away. And as I continue to walk this path with this understanding alive inside me, I have come to realize that the greatest battles are not fought on land or borders, but within the human heart. Because a heart without grounding becomes restless, impatient, and easily manipulated by fear. And it was through dua that I learned how to stand still inside myself, even when everything outside demanded reaction. Because dua teaches restraint without weakness and courage without recklessness. And I was deeply moved by how this quiet act reshaped my relationship with pressure. Because pressure no longer felt like an enemy trying to crush me. It felt like a test refining me, shaping me, strengthening my resolve. And this shift is what many people misunderstand when they think dua is about asking for ease. Because true dua prepares you for difficulty without breaking your spirit. And I saw how moments that once filled me with doubt began to feel different. Because when your heart is anchored, uncertainty loses its terror. And you begin to understand that not knowing the outcome does not mean losing control. It means trusting the journey, and this trust does not make you careless. It makes you focused, disciplined, and intentional. and I noticed that when challenges arose, my first instinct was no longer panic or anger but reflection, because dua trains the heart to pause before reacting, and that pause is where wisdom lives. And slowly I began to see how many conflicts in this world are born not from lack of power, but from lack of inner stability. Because when people are ungrounded, they act from fear, ego, and insecurity. But when the heart is steady, actions carry dignity and purpose. And this realization struck me deeply, because I understood that dua does not remove responsibility. It sharpens it. It does not soften resolve. It purifies it. And the more I leaned into this understanding, the more I felt a quiet strength growing inside me. A strength that did not need to prove itself. A strength that did not depend on approval. A strength that remained intact even when misunderstood, criticized, or tested. And this is the kind of strength that outlives moments and outlasts storms, because it is rooted in something deeper than circumstance. And I want this message to reach every heart that feels overwhelmed by the weight it carries, because dua is not reserved for the strong or the weak. It is for the sincere, and sincerity has a power that transforms confusion into clarity and fear into calm determination. And as I move forward with this understanding, I know that no matter how intense the pressure becomes, no matter how uncertain the road ahead looks, a heart fortified by dua will always find a way to stand upright. Because when you learn to trust beyond what you can see, strength stops being something you chase and becomes something you carry, quietly, firmly, and unshakably. And as this understanding deepened within me, I began to realize that dua does something even more profound than giving, comfort, or strength. It teaches you how to remain human in a world that constantly pushes you to harden, to dominate, to suppress emotion. Because when responsibility grows heavy, the heart can either close itself or expand. And dua keeps it open, without making it fragile, because it reminds you that humility is not weakness, it is awareness, and awareness is what prevents power from turning into arrogance. And I saw clearly how many people lose their direction not because they lack ability, but because they lose connection with their inner compass. And dua restores that connection quietly, patiently, without demanding recognition. And there were moments when outcomes did not align with my expectations, when delays tested my patience, when silence replaced answers. And yet even in those moments, dua did not abandon me, because its power is not limited to results. Its power lies in endurance, in the ability to keep moving forward without becoming bitter. And that realization settled deeply inside me, because I understood that not every unanswered dua is a rejection. Sometimes it is a redirection, sometimes it is protection, and sometimes it is preparation for something the heart is not yet ready to carry. And this understanding softened my impatience and sharpened my trust. Because when you trust sincerely, disappointment loses its ability to poison your spirit and instead becomes a lesson shaping your character. And this is where dua truly transforms a person, because it teaches you how to walk through disappointment without losing faith and purpose. And I was shocked by how this inner stability began to reflect outwardly, because my words became measured, my actions became intentional, and my decisions carried a weight that did not come from force but from conviction. And conviction born from dua does not need to be loud. It speaks through consistency, through calm resolve, through the refusal to be shaken by chaos. And I began to see how this kind of strength inspires without intimidation. Because people do not follow noise forever, they follow steadiness. And steadiness is born when the heart knows where it stands, even when the ground feels uncertain. And I want this truth to be understood clearly. Dua does not remove hardship from the path. It removes panic from the heart. And a heart without panic can face anything with dignity. And as I continue to move forward carrying this understanding, I no longer fear moments of solitude, silence, or uncertainty, because those moments have become spaces of alignment rather than anxiety. And this is why dua penetrates so deeply into the soul, because it teaches you that you are never truly alone in your struggle, even when no one sees the weight you carry. And that awareness changes everything, because when the heart feels supported beyond what is visible, fear loses its grip, despair loses its voice, and strength begins to flow naturally, steadily, and without exhaustion. And this is the power that does not fade with time, that does not collapse under pressure, that does not disappear when applause ends. A power that settles into the bones and carries you forward with quiet certainty, no matter how heavy the road becomes. As this journey continues within me, I have come to understand that the deepest effect of dua is not what it changes around you, but what it protects inside you. Because the world has a way of testing your patience, your sincerity, and your endurance in ways that are invisible to others. And without inner grounding, even the strongest minds can fracture under silent pressure. But dua acts like a shield around the heart, not blocking reality, but helping you face it without losing balance. And I noticed that when I began to rely on dua consistently, I stopped carrying every burden alone in my chest, because there was a release that came with sincere submission, a release that did not make me careless, but made me lighter, clearer, and more focused. And this is something no external power can offer, because external strength can protect your body, but only inner strength can protect your spirit. And dua builds that strength patiently, layer by layer, through moments of stillness, reflection, and truth. And I was struck by how this inner shift changed my perception of struggle, because struggle no longer felt like it felt like refinement, like fire shaping metal. And when you understand that, you stop resisting hardship blindly and start learning from it consciously. And this is where dua becomes transformative, because it turns pain into awareness and pressure into purpose. And I saw how many people around the world break not because they are weak, but because they are tired of carrying weight without meaning. And dua restores meaning to endurance, reminding you that nothing sincere is ever wasted. Not a tear, not a prayer, not a moment of patience. And this understanding gave me a calm confidence that did not depend on immediate success or visible approval. Because when your heart is aligned, you no longer chase validation, you chase integrity. And integrity gives a person a stability that cannot be shaken by rumors, opposition, or uncertainty. And this is the kind of strength that allows you to stand firm without becoming rigid, to remain compassionate without becoming vulnerable to manipulation, and to remain determined without becoming consumed by anger. And I realized that dua teaches you how to carry responsibility without letting it harden your soul. Because power without softness destroys, but softness without strength collapses. And dua balances both, creating a heart that is firm yet humane, disciplined yet merciful. And as I continue forward with this awareness alive inside me, I know that challenges will not disappear, pressure will not vanish, and uncertainty will not fade completely. But I also know that a heart trained through dua does not fear these things, because it understands that true strength is not proven by the absence of struggle, but by the ability to remain steady, sincere, and grounded while walking straight through it. And this is why the power of dua stays with you long after moments pass, because it does not simply help you survive difficult. Thank you. It teaches you how to